Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Man Cave Mondays. I am Dan here in the Man Cave, and I have been looking forward to tonight's conversation. And I use that term looking forward to somewhat loosely. This conversation has been a long time coming here on Man Cave Mondays. We are going to be breaking down the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And more specifically, this is actually, I think, going to be a conversation that carries on at least 2 episodes, maybe more. Because before we dive into the future of the MCU and what's going on with Disney Plus and like all that crazy stuff, the hypotheticals, the theoreticals, the theories that we have, I think it's important for you all to understand how each of us approach what's already come out from the MCU. And the best way to do that is for us to basically vocally pummel each other about what the best and worst MCU movies are thus far. As you can imagine, my opinion's probably going to ruffle a few feathers because we've circled around this conversation a few times already. So that's why I say I've been looking forward to this conversation a little loosely. But we're going to have fun. I love these guys. This is obviously comic books, superheroes, movies, and the MCU is huge. As you can see down in the scroll bar below, for those of you watching live, feel free to leave a comment on what your top MCU movie is and your least favorite MCU movie. And if you leave a comment and you give StreamYard.com/Facebook and give Facebook permission or StreamYard permission, we'll maybe even throw those comments into the stream live, which would be awesome. So let's bring in our panel for tonight. Of course, Christian is here. How are you, sir?
Doing well. How about yourself, sir?
I'm good. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good.
Yeah.
Just small, not trying to stay safe best we can.
Right. Yep, that's exactly what we did too. Kept it pretty chill. So, do any Christmas shopping, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, anything like that?
Christmas shopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the earliest I've ever been done Christmas shopping, but we are done. We are actually like halfway through wrapping as well.
Wow. Overachiever.
You know what? Every other year we are still wrapping like 2 days before Christmas. So we're trying to.
That is exactly what I do. Yeah. That's exactly my approach. Well, good for you, man. That's awesome. Yeah. We've also got Alberto. How are you, sir?
Hey, howdy, hey.
How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. Same thing as Christian, a little bit of a smaller one, but it was a good one still.
Cool. Christmas shopping, all that stuff. Did you get anything cool done? By the way, without spoiling too much for anybody?
Christmas shopping? No. That would have been the smart thing to do, Dan.
Shopping for yourself?
Shopping, me, my sister, and my girlfriend, we definitely all shopped. Not for each other though, so far.
Yeah. That's all right. Hey, there's a few weeks left.
No, I know.
But all right. And Bobby's with us tonight.
What's up, baby?
How are you, sir?
I'm good.
You have a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah. Just I voted for pizza, but my wife still wanted turkey. So.
Pizza would have been nice and simple.
Well, I wanted Lou
It's just you and her and the kid.
And the kiddo, yeah. So turkey legs, pre-made turkey legs.
Hey,
nice.
Yeah. So and then she made 2 sides. So real simple, for us.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
That's good.
Yeah, we did the Thanksgiving dinner thing too. We did an exchange though. We made part of the meal. Other members of Haley's family that live around near us did other parts, and we met in a centralized location and swapped stuff, and then all went back home. So
hey, that's nice.
Yeah, it was kind of nice to still see each other and share technically a meal.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was fun. And then we did a Zoom thing during dinner with my family, which is all up in Minnesota for the most part, or well, I guess now Minnesota, Montana, and Kansas City. And that was just nuts. Like, we got a large family. We're scattered everywhere, and everyone's trying to eat at the same time. It was just chaotic. So we kind of hit pause on the video thing said, "Hey, everybody, let's finish eating, and then we'll catch up after we're done."
Yeah, exactly.
We did that instead.
Yeah,
so, cool. Crazy stuff going on in the news this week. Do you guys want to chat about any of the stuff that's happened? I know there's been some gaming stuff. There's been a lot of movie stuff.
We weren't here last week too, so we got a couple weeks to catch up on the news. I think the one thing I feel like we'd be, even though it's not, it's not Marvel related. Obviously, David Prowse,
superhero movie related,
passed away in the last couple weeks. It's a big loss for the Star Wars community.
Yeah.
That leaves Harrison Ford and
Mark Hamill
as the only two core cast members from the first movie left.
Yeah,
which is sad.
That is.
We lost a lot of Star Wars actors the last year and a half.
Kenny Baker passed away.
He passed away last year, 2 years ago, I think. I don't remember recently, but
relatively recently. I want to say within the last year.
Yeah,
not necessarily 2020, but within.
But
2016.
2016?
Oh, really?
That long ago.
It was like,
man, why does it feel like I'm just getting old? I think.
Oh, because Peter Mayhew died.
Peter Mayhew. That definitely died. That's what.
Anthony Daniels. Anthony Daniels is still alive.
Anthony Daniels. Oh yes, Anthony Daniels.
Don't forget about 3PO because he was just in the Star Wars special. He was the only cast member in the Star Wars.
The Lego thing that Disney Plus had going.
Oh
really?
yeah, which is phenomenal, by the way.
I still haven't seen it. I want to see it. Yeah. But, movie wise, obviously, HBO Max dropped the huge announcement that every major Warner Brothers movie over the course of 2021 is hitting theaters and HBO Max the same day.
Yeah. And no extra fee or anything like that for HBO.
And AMC's president, they were irate.
Which I don't blame them, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't blame either side.
From what it sounds like, they had an agreement, and they were notified ahead of time that Wonder Woman was going to be happening. That way, and they were all kind of on the same page as far as that goes. But then they just dropped the bomb on social media. Basically, they threw it out on Twitter as the major official announcement that every major movie over the next year, that's a ton of movies. That's the new Matrix movies are coming
out. Dune, Tom and Jerry, Wonder Woman, Suicide Squad.
You've got King Kong versus Godzilla coming out. You've got the list
has got a lot of movies coming out.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious what your guys' thoughts are on this because we've talked about the future of films. Yeah. This feels like a nail in a coffin. Is what
it really does. I mean, I said way back when we did our future of film episodes that I didn't think movie theaters would ever be the same. And this to me solidifies that I think movie theaters for the next generation will be how drive-in theaters were when I was growing up. A few of them scattered around, you go see something there maybe once in a while, but it's not going to be like they've been for my whole life, pretty much.
Part of me was wondering if there's going to be some kind of, hey, if you subscribe to Disney Plus, or hey, if you subscribe to HBO Max, then you'll get a discounted rate to go see the movie proper in the theater, or something like that. I mean, because they're still making a lot of money at the theater. Yeah, if people go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel like we're more likely to just get them bumping up the price of streaming services. If major movies are going to start being released on there frequently, I feel like that's more likely what's going to happen.
Yeah. Alberto, what do you think, dude? What do you think
about the whole situation?
Yeah.
Well,
did you watch Mulan when it came to Disney Plus? Did you rent it or whatever?
No, I watched.
Yeah, free as
free now.
It's free now. It's part of the subscription. It's part of the
it's on store shelves now too. You go to Walmart, there it is. But overall, Alberto, what do you think? I
got some mixed feelings.
Bad move? What?
I definitely got some mixed feelings. I think part of it has to do. I remember talking about it a few episodes ago. I'm a huge lover for being able to go to the movie theater. I'm a huge lover for getting dinner afterwards and buying, just the entire experience that comes along with it. You really can't replicate that at home, no matter how good that your in-home stereo systems might be and everything. But at the same time, I understand it. I am just glad that at least like the waiting and the constant waiting for new movies to come out is finally going to come at least to an end. I think that's the biggest thing I'm most excited about. Like my most anticipated movie of the year, and you guys might hate me for it, but was The Many Saints of Newark. It's a Sopranos prequel movie, and the original actor that played Tony Soprano, James, his son is going to be playing the younger Tony Soprano in the movie. So it's really awesome that not only is the son going to be in it, he's going to be playing his dad's role. I was really looking forward to it, and they pushed it over and over and over due to COVID. So with that being said, like I was really excited to see that on the list. Everything else was just like I was surprised that they were going to do everything. Like you guys said, Dune, Matrix, Suicide Squad, Tom and Jerry, but I think this is the best happy medium that they could have done. They're still doing a limited theatrical release like normal for those that still want to experience it for a month. But at the same time, like it is a huge bummer because vaccines are around the corner. I read that article that the AMC CEO is talking about. Oh, don't worry. Once the vaccines come out, everything's going to be okay.
I don't think it's going to be that quick. I think it's
it's not. I mean, it's going to be probably at least 6 months before it's readily available.
And it's going to take some time, yeah.
At least another year until it's a broad enough portion
that
of the
people feel right. Yeah,
and
I mean, and granted, you could have some sort of system where you have people like having to show proof that you know what I mean? Like, there's all sorts of different options available for that, as well as like sporting events and that sort of stuff.
And the other question is, you got to wonder, as far as like a business standpoint, there's a weird balance that theaters are having to manage when we go back to normal. You know what I mean? Like, make sure things are clean. Yeah, make sure, all of that sort of stuff, of course. But when it comes to social distancing, keeping 6 feet away from one another, like those are seats. Butts in seats equal tickets available, tickets sold.
Right.
Equals money, Right,
exactly.
So right now, if they're at best able to have 50% capacity and they're still not even making that, once vaccines and all that stuff come out, like how do you roll out going back to normal to pack a theater?
If ever,
right, exactly. If
that's
ever.
ultimately the thing. I
don't know, dude.
It's weird. It's weird. Like even now, seeing clips from concerts or from sporting events or whatever, and you just see how packed together we all used to be in some of these places. And it's just crazy.
Just a year ago.
Yeah.
A year ago, dude.
It's absurd. And so it's one of those things where even if, let's say, best case scenario, 6 months from now, they say, everybody can go get vaccinated and everybody can go do this and that, everything's back to normal. It's not going to be back to normal.
Mm-mm.
Because even if people who might get vaccinated or people who don't, or people who have whatever they decide to do, it's still going to take a long time for people to undo a year's worth of social distancing habits and of that sort of stuff.
Then here's my question, and I'll throw this out and then we'll wrap up the news kind of chat with this and then move on to the topic for the day. But why is HBO Max, why is Warner Brothers doing this? Obviously, you can just drop the whole, money. Yeah, obviously. Well, theaters aren't getting money like they could, but like, what's the real motive? Because that's a big bomb to drop on all the other major streaming services to say, hey, all of our major motion pictures that we have had planned for the next 12 months are going directly to our streaming service the same day, and you don't have to rent them or pay extra in order to get it. You just have to be subscribed to our service. That's huge.
So first, I had a theory based from the YouTuber to the critical.
And do you think it's going to be permanent, or do you think it's just going to be for the year? So go ahead.
It all depends on how everyone starts to flow together. If Disney follows suit and releases Black Widow and all the other ones on Disney Plus, then the game's over. I mean, and people are not going to theaters. Game's over.
Yeah. I think Disney knows that too, which is why they're kind of like, I don't.
Yeah,
they're toting the line.
They want people to go back to the theaters.
Yeah,
they've got plenty of people on Disney Plus already. I don't know.
They're waiting to again. I don't know if they had their board meeting yet to kind of where they're going to talk about their new.
Supposed to be soon. I think it's within the next couple of weeks.
We're going to find out
before Christmas.
Yeah, so at their next board meeting, where they're going to talk about where they're going to release how much profit they made and all that jazz, and show how much the parks are losing and how much the streaming service is doing well.
Right.
They're going to
the only thing keeping them from being bankrupt.
Right. And I think right now the only reason to release it is, again, you said money, but movies are not paid out of pocket. You make loans, and right now, the only way HBO is going to get money in your pocket, without putting them out on DVD, is putting them directly on their streaming service and getting people to pay for that service. That is the only way they're going to get money to make up those loans.
Well, especially because think about it this way: going to Walmart or wherever you go to buy a DVD for a movie, you're spending $20-$30 easy. Especially if you get the Blu-ray, 4K, whatever version.
Right.
Yeah. Or you can pay what I think HBO Max is what $15 a month. How much is it? $15 a month. And if for that $15 a month, not only are you going to get access to this movie that's coming out this month, but also this other one that's coming out this month, and you'll have access to all these other TV shows and that sort of stuff that are on there. People are much more likely to say, "Oh, let me just pay the $15 to get HBO Max to get the movie I want to watch."
Right.
As well as these other ones, instead of paying $25 at the store. And I don't have to leave my house.
Alberto, what do you think?
I'm excited.
I feel like you've been sitting back and watching these guys hash it out, which totally agree, but I'm curious.
I think Christian and I are on the same page.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I'm just thinking about how to answer your question from earlier, saying that, like, if I think this will only be for this year, how long will this really go for? Because I am kind of curious because let's say it's only a year. How smooth would that transition be from HBO kind of slowly starting to announce, like, okay, the movies are now going to be going onto theaters, and it's going to be 6 months until they start going on HBO, and
it changes a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, like, how many people are going to get upset about that? How many people are going to just start canceling older subscriptions? And yes, they'll start making the money back from box office tickets being sold and whatnot. But I don't know. I think I'm more curious there, Alberto. I'm more curious of that transitioning going back to quote unquote normal. That's going to be the more interesting one.
Anyone on these CDs?
Yeah.
How many CDs
Alberto
everyone still how many? All right. How many CDs are you still actually using?
Right? That was the last CD he bought.
Yes, sir.
Their new album's coming out too. But I'm looking forward to that one in February. But how often, and viewers out there, how many people are actually using the physical CDs?
Most cars nowadays don't even have a CD player.
No, and that's kind of the point. I mean,
but I think comparing
when Disney. What was before Blu-ray? It was DVD plus versus Blu-ray, correct?
There was
high definition
DVD,
HD DVD,
and an HD DVD versus Blu-ray.
And the nail in the coffin was Disney going with Blu-ray. Once they said all of our DVDs are going to Blu-ray, that was it.
But and I think Disney is once again the nail in the coffin.
That's the nail in the coffin.
Because Disney is Star Wars, Marvel, Disney. Once Disney, if
Century Fox.
Yeah, Century Fox. Too, right? If Disney comes out and says, we are releasing all of our upcoming movie slate on digital, I'm not confident theaters won't close.
Theaters are going to be done.
They won't be able to recover.
I think Disney knows that, which is why
they're waiting.
Internal conversation going on at Disney on a higher level of how to make that response to HBO Max. I think they're holding out to see how successful it is for HBO Max and Warner Brothers, because the reality is, Alberto, when you're talking about how long is it going to last, they've said it is only guaranteed for a year, but they haven't said that they won't extend it beyond that.
Right.
But here's the
real crazy part for Warner Brothers. If this is and I think to some degree part of this is we need to get caught up subscription wise with Netflix, Disney,
100%,
Hulu, all of that stuff. So over the next year, we're going to say all of our movies are coming to HBO Max, and that's going to draw people to subscribe to our service, and they're going to be there, and they're going to see all this great content. They're going to see The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They're going to see Game of Thrones, and they're going to see Watchmen, like all these other shows and all the exclusives that they have.
Rick and Morty.
Great. But the reason they went there was because they're going to be getting exclusive day one access to all of Warner Brothers movies in their house. If they remove that, that is losing value that people had when they initially decided to subscribe to it for the next year.
Yeah.
That is a big risk Warner Brothers is taking to say, hey, we're going to use this to draw people in. And then if you get rid of it,
well, and it's like, I think
what?
The one,
same price, but you're not doing that anymore. Like what?
Yeah. Netflix.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Netflix pulled that on everyone. Oh, we have all friends.
But they did that. They did that after they had already spent years establishing their viewer base and all of that stuff. HBO Max hasn't even been out a year yet.
Yeah,
and they're already
they've arguably had no major release on it yet either.
Right, and I think for a lot of people like me who were like, sweet, HBO Max, awesome, Justice League, and Zack Snyder and all the DC stuff, and we've got this new, like, all the DC fans were with HBO Max. We get it, we love it, it's got all that content. But for everybody else, this next year is going to be really telling. And I don't think, Alberto, I think you're onto something. I don't know that it ends after a year. I really won't.
It won't, because
the value is going to be too high. It's going to already be established.
Yeah. The fact that they were willing to commit to an entire year already right now, to me, signals they don't think it's going to be ending anytime soon.
No.
So,
nor do they care, probably.
No, they don't. Exactly. Because it's about building up the subscriptions.
Yep. That's what this is all about.
Yep. So, I do think we should move on to the main topic, though.
Yes. The MCU. Should we do best or worst first?
Oh, we always start with best, and with the worst
and fun, the terrible ones, right?
Yeah,
those are more fun to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
I think everybody can agree on, hey, these were good.
Yeah, but the bad ones are more fun to debate.
Yeah, unless it's Star Wars, then we have some pretty sharp disagreements. But I don't know. I think we're going to be having some sharp disagreements here too, though. To be honest with you, who wants to go first? Christian?
I'll go first. Yeah,
you're the first one to get in. You're the first tab open here, so let's go with you first. If I can share my screen here, are these in any particular order?
Yeah. So left to right is
right. That's how I input mine.
Yes, first to third, and then the one on the far right is the honorable mention.
Okay.
So we can start then on the right with the honorable mention and go all the way to the first place.
All right. So here it is.
I went back and forth with this list. My number one was locked because if you remember from our general movie discussion, the Avengers Endgame,
left to right,
1, 2, 3, and honorable mention.
So the far right is your honorable mention?
Correct.
Okay, so let's work our way from right to left down to your number one.
Got it.
And those of you who are watching, you can already see them. For those of you listening on the podcast, one at a time. Yeah, we'll get there.
So
your honorable mention, though.
My honorable mention, I tossed it up between this and Thor Ragnarok. I was going back and forth.
This being
Spider-Man Far From Home.
Far From Home.
Yes.
The last MCU movie we have seen.
Yes.
Ever.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So because two reasons.
It's been a year? Good Lord.
Two reasons primarily. One, I think Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio is one of the best solo movie villains we've gotten in the MCU.
He's a good movie villain. I can agree with you. I agree with you.
He highlighted that movie.
Taking out the group movies villains, like your Civil War and your Endgame and all that stuff. As far as a solo superheroes movie, I think he was fantastic.
And they did a good job rolling it all in from all the other past movies.
Exactly, yeah.
Because he was in Civil War. And then they had all these little background elements twisting into this final element.
Tied it all together.
Yeah. So I think that was a really nice twist to it.
Yeah, you've got the Nick Fury twist then, obviously, as well.
Interesting comment from one of our listeners here already as we dive into this. Mm-hmm. Alec says he has not seen any Avengers movies.
I'm curious if that means any Marvel movie at all, or just the Avengers ones.
That's a very good point, Alan.
Alec,
if you're feel free to throw that clarification. Any Avengers movies, because there's 4 of those, or just the MCU in general? A very good clarifying question.
Yeah.
Okay, so your number 3 though.
The first Guardians of the Galaxy.
The first one. Okay.
Yes.
Why that one instead of the second one? Curious.
Because I feel like the first one was like the perfect storm of humor, action, all mixed together. Okay. The second one tried to repeat a lot of the same tropes as the first one and didn't do as good of a job, in my opinion.
Like Anchorman 2.
Yes, exactly. There are parts
Anchorman 2 was basically a gigantic SNL sketch.
Oh yeah.
Washing in the glory of the first movie.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I think,
but it was still a good movie.
It was.
I thought so. I love Anchorman.
Guardians or Anchorman? What are we doing?
Both.
But so I think Guardians 2 tried to fit a little too much in there, in my opinion.
They were definitely trying to fill in some pretty key plot establishment components that were required to move.
Dan, we did get a clarification from Alec, if you want to throw that up on there.
Any Avenger? Okay. So any Avengers? I've only seen Iron Man movies and the Incredible Hulk movie, and that is it. All right. So he also has not seen any Captain America movies, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
So.
Wow. Well, in a second here,
we'll wrap up our conversation maybe by telling some recommendations on what would be the best way to start watching the MCU. Or we can maybe we can get to that next week. But
definitely.
We'll see how the conversation goes.
Yeah, but so I think that first Guardians of the Galaxy movie really, the cast all had a good balance together. Second one, it felt like a little repeated, like I said.
They definitely had lightning in a bottle with the first Guardians movie.
Yeah,
that was a huge test for the whole MCU. If they couldn't make this work, none of the stuff after that was going to work.
It was really the first kind of outside the formula MCU movie.
Yeah,
outside the normal recognizable superhero.
Yeah, because arguably before it came out, none of those characters were really known much at all in the general.
Right.
No, but you can always tell if you're watching the cartoons of that era, they're always slipping in the superheroes that they're going to start slipping in the movies. So if you want to see a preview of what Marvel is tinkering about, watch the current cartoon series and see who are they're putting in as guest stars and filling in and
to get a fan reaction, like, oh, how do people like this character?
Right. Or let's start putting them in so people are more recognizable when they hit the screen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Number 2 on my list is Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Okay.
I tossed back and forth between this one and Black Panther. Ultimately, I decided that this entire list for me was about rewatchability. And as fantastic of a movie as Black Panther is, I feel like it doesn't have the same impact on me every time after watching it the first time. Whereas I feel like every time I watch The Winter Soldier and these other movies, it's still fantastic. And to me, The Winter Soldier is the kind of perfect, concise story in a bottle. Even though it's got bits and pieces from a bunch of other Marvel movies and stuff like that, you can throw on The Winter Soldier and they still explain everything enough for you to perfectly understand what's happening.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yes, obviously, if you watched the first Captain America, you're going to understand a little bit more about who Bucky is and that sort of stuff. But they do a good enough job of conveying the emotion.
Yeah, you definitely don't need necessarily the first Avenger, the first Captain America movie, in order to follow, and appreciate the Winter Soldier.
And I think that's part of why,
in some parts, but it's definitely not necessary.
Yeah.
So.
And then number 1 is Avengers Endgame for me. We talked about this a little bit in the general movie discussion, where I have that in my overall top 3. And I know it's a debatable one. A lot of people prefer Infinity War. But for me personally, Endgame was that culmination of a decade worth of a story.
Yeah.
It truly was a chapter closing type of moment. And that finally getting that Avengers Assemble moment in that movie is up there with, your like Lord of the Rings Return of the King, and Lord of the Rings Two Towers, like those types of like moments where it's just that like you can watch those moments over and over and over again, and it's going to be just as impactful every single time.
You felt like the Black Panther wasn't as much that as the Winter Soldier?
I felt like, for me personally,
and
Black Panther
Endgame,
I felt like Black Panther for me is a fantastic story and a fantastic movie. And honestly, like I said, if you ask me tomorrow, that might be up there instead of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Like I said, I went back and forth so many times, but for me, ultimately, the thing it comes down to is if I rewatch Black Panther, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a good movie. Like, I'm enjoying it, enjoying the action and stuff like that. But I feel like the story in that movie doesn't hit me the same as it did the first time watching it. Whereas the story in Winter Soldier, the ups and downs still hit me the same. Every single time watching Avengers Endgame, seeing everybody come out of the portals hits me the same way every single time.
All right. Solid list. I mean, is there anything that we would take issue with in a large fashion here, guys?
I would say the only issue, like Christian, I agree with you 100% on everything that you said. I can watch any of those moments.
And there's the end of the podcast. We're good. I mean, you can go home happy.
Christian, I can agree with you. I've watched the portal scene so many times and reenacted the Captain America scene with my son watching me, thinking what are you doing? Yeah, over and over again. We have the theme song, we have the music playing. I 100% agree with you. The only issue why I don't put Avengers Endgame as the very best is because you can't watch it stand alone. If you're a brand new watcher and you just go into that movie, you're going to be like, what is going on?
You're definitely not appreciating the fullness of the movie.
You need to watch the entire saga and know all the, to truly appreciate it and all the nuances and Easter eggs and characters. And
if you want the emotional weight of I Love You 5,000 and like the whole, and
that's fair. That's
all of that. Yeah, I can see where you're saying that.
Yeah, you need to watch all those to truly have that movie as an impact. But if you're just a casual watcher and you're just like, all right, let's just see it because it's a fun summer movie, you'll be like, who's that? Who's that?
Yeah, what's happening here? Why is that? Yeah,
there. So that's why that's my only criticism of that movie. Other than that,
and I think if somebody was asking me for a list of what if I'm only going to watch a couple of Marvel movies, which one should I watch? I probably wouldn't put that one on there. You're probably right. But as far as just which ones have I enjoyed the most?
100%.
Yeah,
I bow down to your logic on that one, Christian. So I agree with you on that, but I just wanted to point out why we would. No,
I completely agree with you on that. Yeah, no, 100%.
All righty. Moving on, before we dive into our next person, though, Alec, who's been watching with us here live, did have a serious question, and it's a good one. Why have they redone Spider-Man so many times? All the MCU series, they
actually can answer this very well.
Over. And technically, when we're talking MCU, official Marvel Cinematic Universe canon, there is only one, and it is this guy, Tom Holland, as of right now.
So,
but Sony has definitely rebooted Spider-Man now
multiple times. So, Christian,
why
don't you go into it?
Yes, I'll go into it, and then I know you got something to tag. I know you got something I'll tag you in.
I'll tag you. I'll tag team you what you say.
So, the reason why they rebooted it more than the one original series was twofold. 1
after Tobey Maguire.
Right. So they had the Tobey Maguire ones, which 1 and 2 massive successes. 3 shouldn't exist. It's a disgrace to moviedom. But
Well, it's because I get too much. They
yeah,
and I'll jump into that. That 3 wasn't successful because jam packed so much into that movie. Sam Raimi wasn't into Venom, and he just jam packed it all in there, and it wasn't as good as a movie as it should have been.
Yeah.
So, and that's why 3 failed.
Spider-Man 3 was the first movie, which we've seen it a lot recently, first comic book movie to suffer because of the studio.
Yeah.
And so they did all of that.
Major successes.
Right, exactly, yeah. And so they did all of that, and ultimately Spider-Man 4 got canceled.
Batman Forever, Batman and Robin.
Well,
I mean,
right,
anyways.
yeah, true.
Marvel-wise, anyway, yes.
Marvel-wise, yeah. And so they canceled Spider-Man 4, and then X amount of years later, I can't remember exactly how long ago it was, their license was about to expire. The way that the licensing agreements work, if they do not utilize those characters in movie form or television form, it goes back to their original owner.
So let's go back. I'm just going to go back and forth a second ago. The reason why Sony owns the Spider-Man franchise years back, Marvel was broke. So they needed to license out as many characters as possible. Yeah. And Sony had the opportunity to buy the entire franchise. And they just said, Avengers, who wants to watch these guys? We only want Spider-Man. So they bought the license.
Spider-Man and who else? Is it just Spider-Man?
Fantastic Four.
No, Fantastic Four was Fox.
Fantastic Four. But anyway, that's why so many Marvel movies went to so many different places. Marvel was on a spending spree. So Sony owns the licensing movie rights to Spider-Man. And that's Christian. That's where you're coming in. Sorry. I just wanted to explain that part.
Good clarity. Alberto, do you have anything to add to that?
For the whole Spider-Man one?
Yeah. Why they've redone it so many times. I mean, it's
just been passing a lot of hands. That's all. I mean, as bummed as I am that Sony has the Spider-Man in their hands again, I'm kind of just glad that it's kind of come full circle. Oh, somewhat of a full circle. And I'm just glad the whole feud thing is just over with, because I'm just hoping that they kind of just stick with one storyline with Spider-Man for at least a few years, so we can just enjoy Tom Holland as Spider-Man for a little bit. That we're not going to get another reboot all over again. And if they are going to reboot it, I really do hope they start introducing live action Miles Morales, live action Spider-Gwen, live action.
That would be fun.
I'd be cool with that. Yeah. So
over with Venom. I mean,
other incarnations of him would be absolutely fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that the most.
Yeah, I feel like we'll spend a decent chunk of at least probably part 2 of this series talking about the Spider-Man 3 coming up and all the rumors and stuff with that.
Yeah, we could.
But yeah, so
we can bring that up maybe next week when we start.
Yeah, so ultimately, to straight up answer the question, Alec, is Sony wants to keep Spider-Man so they can keep making money off of him, and as long as they keep making movies, they're going to keep making money.
Sam Raimi refused to do Spider-Man 4 because 3 was so terrible because of studio interference.
Yeah.
And
they had issues with Tobey Maguire.
Right. And they're like, well, we want to keep the property of Spider-Man, so I guess you're out, Sam.
Which is a bummer, because a Bruce Campbell Mysterio would have been fantastic.
Oh, that'd have been amazing. That was what they were talking about doing.
That would have been so good.
I would have loved that. And he was primed for the part, too.
Oh, that was, that would have been perfection.
Okay, Bobby, you want to go next, or Alberto?
Sure. Alberto, you had your list before I was done. So if you want to go first, go for it. Otherwise, I'll go.
We can go with me. That's totally fine. I don't mind.
Yep.
Alberto, you're up. Now, are we doing left to right honorable mention, and then the last one on the right is your first pick, or is it?
I am on the same.
No particular order.
Same thing as Christian, right to left. So
right to left.
Okay. Yeah, I wrote my book like a manga.
Alrighty. If I can get it up here, add to stream. There we go. Okay, so your honorable mention.
Yeah. So
Black Panther.
actually real bit contrary to Christian. I was juggling also with Winter Soldier and Black Panther. Couldn't decide which of the two to pick. Ultimately, I ended up going with Black Panther. I was talking to my buddy earlier today about like the podcast and everything, and I told him I recently rewatched Winter Soldier, and I really never noticed just how much they really did love the shaky cam effect. A lot for their fighting scenes.
That's true.
And I think at the time I loved it a lot.
Kind of hiding terrible choreography usually.
Yeah. So like at the time,
camera, so you can't see how sucky they are at doing that.
When I was first watching the movie, I think I liked the movie a lot because it's such an emphasis on hand-to-hand combat, which is something that you don't really see too much in the MCU. So I really enjoyed it. But then as the years went on and I started rewatching, I'm like, I'm getting a headache watching this movie actually from this really shaky cam. And I still love the movie. I will still pop it in or click on it now that it's on Disney Plus and just watch it, and that's it. But one reason and one big reason alone that I picked Black Panther, as Donald mentioned, is because Christian was just talking about best solo villains. I think Killmonger can probably give him a huge run for his money.
He is.
Yes.
Killmonger, hands
One of the
down.
best in the whole.
It's a shame. Like, as good as Michael B. Jordan was in that role, it's a shame that his role was a one-off.
Yeah, I adored him.
Tragic that Chad Boseman is no longer with us because this franchise would have just.
Yeah, well, and you saw the stuff happening with Letitia Wright now too, right?
Yeah.
She's getting some pretty heavy backlash online too. So that Black Panther series is in a bit of a.
I know, like why?
It's in a weird spot.
This is why we can't have nice things. Like,
damn it, 2020.
Come on.
But I absolutely loved Killmonger. I don't know word for word, but that quote about like him speaking about his ancestors and bury me into the ocean for they knew that death is better than being a slave. Man, that hit. And I don't know, there was just so much about him that I can keep talking about. The main reason I don't like the movie though, and I've already looked it up and I know why, is because it was a really weird rush production period. But that final climactic fight scene where all of a sudden it becomes a huge PS2 fight scene between Killmonger in a suit and T'Challa in a suit, and they're fighting.
They're fighting in the train.
They're fighting in the train and everything.
No, PS2.
I had a hard time.
As bad as the Matrix Reloaded was, that was
I guess it's true.
way worse.
That was PS1.
As soon as that happened, because I loved their duel. I love the orchestra of the entire score of this movie is awesome too. It's incredible. It's one of the more absolutely unique ones. It's not like some trumpets and some sort of string orchestra style of music that's written a lot in all the other movies. This one really just hones in its culture and the whole just African soundscape, and listening to it, and it was really cool just to see all the chants and whatnot.
Yeah. And I love the dynamics between the two lead men in this, that they're still to some degree fighting for the same cause.
Yeah.
Going about it in radically different way. Like it very much echoes the real life
of MLK and Malcolm X.
Malcolm X and MLK Jr., right? Like that dynamic is so thick within the dialogue and the conflict in this movie. You definitely feel it. It's really good. And I would even go another step further and talk about how the portrayal of the women and the female characters in this film, this is the best portrayal of modern feminism in any of the MCU movies. If you ask me. It's fantastic. Absolutely love it.
So I love it, and the only thing is that my number 3 pick, I love that one just a little bit more because from beginning to end, I enjoyed
Spider-Man Homecoming.
That's your number 3. A fun movie.
Yeah, like Black Panther, I enjoyed the first 2/3, and then that final third with all the CGI rush stuff. That's not on any actor's fault whatsoever. Mm-hmm. It's not on the writer's fault. It's just really short crunch time, and it just really hindered it, I think. But Spider-Man, from the beginning to the very last fight sequence with with Vulture and stuff, Michael Keaton was awesome. It was great to see him as a Vulture.
Was fantastic.
Another fantastic villain for a solo movie.
it was a really fun movie, just like Bobby said. It was a great fun movie to see.
Yeah.
And
do you think, and this kind of ties into one of the questions that's getting thrown out by our listeners on Facebook. Do you think like Venom, the Venom movie, and Sony's connection with everything going on and Tom Holland, like what did you guys think of Venom? Do you think
I thought Venom was fantastic?
You thought it was good?
Christian.
I have not seen Venom yet.
I am on board with Christian too.
I thought it was a great movie.
I think it could have been a hard R if they wanted to, and it would have been excellent as a hard R. But they took the softer route of PG-13, and I was skeptical of it, but I didn't mind it. It was good. I liked it.
I thought it was just the right amount of cheesy and campy without being like Jim Carrey's The Mask levels of cheesy and campy.
And there's where I think Christian, I think the thing that you're onto there is they found the right balance of Venom being a character that is in between Carnage and Spider-Man on the like extremes.
Yes, we're looking at like the alignment chart.
If Spider-Man is like total Boy Scout,
and Carnage is total like just chaos.
Joker from The Dark Knight, right?
Yeah.
Then Venom was very much
is what he's always been.
Right.
And I thought Tom Hardy did a fantastic job, short of whatever accent they tried to give him in that movie.
Wasn't quite pulling that off.
I don't know what that was supposed to be.
He was from New York, but then he's in San Francisco. Like,
short of that, I thought the movie was fantastic. Also, one of my favorite Stan Lee cameos.
Oh yes, that was a very
good Stan Lee cameo.
Roberto, you didn't like Venom though?
Okay.
It sounded like you didn't like it.
Not
to get off track from your number 3 here, but
no, but
world, and there's rumors that could be part of the multiverse dealio. But
so I enjoyed Venom. I did not love it by any means. I can barely say I liked it. I think the problem I had.
Wait, you enjoyed it, but you could barely say you liked it?
Yeah, I could just barely say it. The reason I liked it was because of Tom Hardy. I have loved him in Inception and in Mad Max. When I saw he was going to be Eddie in Venom, I was excited, and I was going to buy a ticket, like midnight launch, no matter what ended up happening. The problem I had was that I guess the way that I saw the commercials, maybe it's just the way I interpret it, I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a really darker, more grittier kind of take, and they did go the campy route, which is fine because I have seen Venom in like more campy settings. I'm thinking of like the PS1 Spider-Man where he was kind of sarcastic and did a lot of quips in that.
Deadpool-esque almost.
Yeah, so I liked that. I just wish that they play that card just a little bit more in the commercials and all the promotions leading up to it. My expectations was one thing and it was a whole other thing. So I didn't think it was bad by any means. Like looking back at it, same problem as Black Panther though. Final end sequences, I dare you guys to fight me on it. That last fight sequence was like 3.5 minutes long, and it just happened. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, this happened. This happened."
I thought it was good. I wish they would have set it up so that you could see what was happening better.
Yeah.
Gray and black symbiote,
all at nighttime,
the black sky behind. Like, how do you see what's happening? So
that was
I do completely agree with everything that you're saying there, Alberto. Like it was definitely marketed deceivingly, and I think that was on purpose.
Yeah, they got me. So
it's still fun.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on to your number 2?
Yeah, sure. I guess just to touch
I'll come back around to Homecoming. I guarantee it. So, of all the Marvel movies that have come out, cinematic universe ones, Thor Ragnarok is number 2.
Yes, and is a huge personal preference reason because of this. I know we're going to be talking about worst movies. I could have just filled up 2 out of top 3, bottom 3 spots with Thor movies, but I really I strongly dislike Thor 1, and I hate Thor 2. I cannot stand watching Thor 2. Like,
I don't love them, but
it is. Thor 2 is my episodes 2 of Star Wars. I can put that to fall asleep. It is my melatonin. I can easily knock out in 30 minutes of watching it.
I thought the prequel, the Attack of the Clones was your Xanax.
No.
Yeah,
Episode 2.
Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and
Yeah.
it's saying the second Thor movie.
Yeah.
Is the MCU version of that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So I do not like that movie. Slightly out topic, in topic. I know that there's gonna be the whole She-Thor thing coming out. I know with whole, Natalie Portman's is
Love and Thunder.
Yeah, with Love and Thunder. I'm excited for the sequel. I'm excited for the character. I am not excited for the
too much on that, but
yeah, and I am not excited at all for Natalie Portman's character because I never liked her character in episodes 1 and 2 of it. I'm sorry, Dan. It feels really short, shoehorned in, but I'll save that for later on. I will. But Thor Ragnarok, the reason I put it number 2,
one Thor movie without Natalie Portman in it.
No. No. I feel like they finally just found like the balance of like, okay, if you're gonna just keep making Thor be this weird foreign goofball from outer space, at least just kind of
go all in.
Yeah, just go all in and just make the script revolve around that for once. And I feel like this was just the most fun of the bunch, where number 1 try to be something a lot like a serious. Number 2 definitely was a lot more serious, and they try to shape Thor into something else. And then in Ragnarok, kind of taking away Iron Man, which I think was one of my favorite things too, that there is no Iron Man in it. And I feel like a lot of people, when they think of MCU, it is Iron Man and Captain America. Honestly, that's the way I see it.
Captain America was in Thor Ragnarok. No, he was in the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you're talking about the
Loki thing. The Loki.
Yeah.
Taika Waititi saved Thor.
Yes. So I've always loved his movies too.
I don't know that I go that far, but okay.
He did. Thor was a joke before him.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to get into this when we get into our terrible ones, I'm sure. Yeah. I know at least Thor movies is on your terrible ones, but I disagree with you that they're that bad.
But the action was cool. The jokes are really funny. I love the little buddy comedy that they got going on between Thor and Hulk. There was just a lot for me to read, to enjoy. And it's the one Thor movie I've probably seen like a half a dozen times, and the other ones I don't even want to remember. So
yeah,
it's
for sure.
It is the least Thor-like Thor movie.
Yeah, and I think
it is one of the.
What? That's okay.
It is one of the most obscurely weird tone movies in the entire MCU.
Well, that's because they went with the Jack Kirby style era of artwork in this, which was very much that psychedelic type. And if you read the Jack Kirby comics, it was that very psychedelic type artwork. And that's where a lot of it was heavily inspired upon.
I honestly think this very easily, and the only reason why it wasn't for licensing reasons, could have easily just been a second Hulk movie. Like it feels more like a Hulk movie, the first 2/3 of the film, than a Thor movie.
I disagree with you on that.
I feel like they didn't have enough Hulk. Honestly,
yeah, I would have loved more of them. What are you talking about?
That's what I'm saying. The strongest, the best, the most compelling part of it for me was the Hulk, and I wish we'd seen more of it because I love the World War Hulk. I love Planet Hulk comic arc, and
comic arc,
and I wish they would have done more with that. And the fact that like this felt like Hulk's movie to me, as much as Thor's movie. So anyway.
That's true. That I think is a true statement. This was
because they can't legally release another Hulk movie.
No, they can't do a Hulk solo
independent Hulk movie. No,
they can't do an independent Hulk movie. But I do think this is the Thor Hulk movie. It could have been called Thor and Hulk Ragnarok.
Right.
I mean, that's very much true.
World War Hulk, and Thor. Like,
they
depending on what emphasis they wanted to put on it, and they could have easily shied away from the Ragnarok side of it and focused more on World War Hulk, with Thor just making an appearance, or the Hulk versus Thor and like that.
Yeah,
they had Beta Ray Bill. They had Beta Ray Bill in the original World War Hulk, and they had him fight Silver Surfer and all that. And
So it's an anomaly movie in the MCU. There's a lot of like winks and nods and just it's a goofy blender of a movie.
It feels very out of place, almost like the first Ant-Man does.
But I mean, and here's okay. So I'm saying all of this critical stuff about it because I don't think it's necessarily going to be on anybody's least favorite. I don't hate the movie. I think on its own, it stands on its own as a really fun movie. Taika Waititi's style is just slathered all over this film for sure. It is
oozing it,
which is great, and it's good to know that going into it if you know his stuff. I do think it was a really, really odd placement for that tone of a movie, sandwiched between all of the other movies that were around it leading up to Infinity War.
I think
it's a weird movie to put in there going up to Infinity War.
If you're going into like Thor's, because you have to think of Thor's growth happened over all of these 3 movies.
Yeah,
you get and Thor's probably one of the most tragic MCU characters. That happened. I mean,
he loses an eye.
He loses an eye. His dad gets killed. His mom gets killed. His brother gets killed. His girlfriend. A lot.
His brother
awful as Iron Man had it.
Again, he becomes the leader. Then he loses half of his most of his culture's killed, and then he blames himself for half of the entire universe. So there's a lot going on with
gone for the head.
Gone for the head. And all that. And I think they could have done the post-traumatic stress. They could have done a lot of different things with the post-traumatic stress disorder. They could have made him like go even further into darkness, but they made him more into like into drunk, into in Avengers Endgame. But besides the point. Yeah. I think though it was, again, Taika Waititi took Chris Hemsworth, saw the comedic part of him, said, okay, we're going to use that part of you now, because if you look at Thor 1 and Thor 2, Thor's growing. He was this stoic, I'm going to be in charge, I'm going to be in charge. And then him growing more or less out of the role, like, I still need to discover myself. I'm not ready to be in charge. I really need to kind of figure out who I am and kind of adventure. And then you're moving on to, okay, he doesn't have a stick up of his butt now. He's now like, I'm now just kicking butt. I know what's good, and I'm just trying to do what's right. And I think Thor, it was a good, you could have probably used like another movie or somewhere in between showing him like going into that more comedic phase.
Yeah.
That I think that switch, but I think it was proper growth going from those 2 movies into this movie. And then
specifically, I could see that.
Yeah.
I think, and also the growth between him and Loki, which from what it sounded like, Kevin Feige wasn't 100% sure whether or not Loki was going to be as long-term of a character as he ended up being, but everybody loved Loki.
Oh, because that's because Tom Hiddleston is
right. It was fantastic. So I do love Thor Ragnarok very much. It's got a very, very different feel to it.
Are we in agreement that the send help gag is one of the greatest gags in MCU history, though?
Loved it.
Like,
that's so good. I don't want to play send help. No, come on, it works every time. Okay,
yeah.
This time
and then the elevator doors just open. It's just
love it.
Please help my brother.
Okay, you're number 1, Alberto.
So number 1, I'll keep it short just because I know the time's
running. Yeah, we took a lot of time on Thor Ragnarok there, but that's okay. That's all right.
Man, when the heck this movie came out? It came out in high school. It was right after a Stuco night, and I remember I was talking with like a group of friends. It was Nathan Muniz's birthday, or at least his birthday was like around that week, and I remember that we're like, oh, what do you want to do for your birthday? And he's like, I don't know. I mean, like, there's a movie that I want to go see. Shout out to
Nathan. I think he's on the Facebook group. So
yes, sir.
Shout out.
In 2014.
That's when it was. And Nathan wanted to go see this movie at the theaters. So I've never once seen. No, I saw like 2 commercials for Guardians of the Galaxy. Never looked into it. I didn't know who the hell anybody was in that movie. I never heard of this group or this nobody. And I was like
Nobody
that.
did, yeah.
I was like that looks like a mess. And I was like, but everyone's gonna go. Nick Hill went. Alan Perez went. Like the whole crew went. I was like, all right, fine. Like let's all go. And I fell in love with the movie. First time watching. The soundtrack was awesome. The humor was great. It's you said it perfectly. Lightning in the bottle. It happened right then and there. That was the most riskiest movie to have ever come out.
Yeah,
And
that soundtrack.
Well,
Fantastic.
we're gonna find out
Greatest
as
hits
of right
volume
now.
one.
I mean, as of that time, because they got some pretty riskier movies coming up in the next phases.
that's true.
Yes,
So this is they got some weirder stuff coming out. So
I know.
the
We'll see.
Immortals,
Did you guys see the
Alberto, I think Greatest Hits Volume 1 coming out ahead of the movie and everybody falling in love with that soundtrack before the movie was a huge part of
the trailer,
and
everything.
Yeah, it had Spirit in the Sky in the
people for
trailer
it
and everything.
perfectly.
People said this is what Star Wars should be.
Yeah.
You know, this is how like everyone
It's
looked at
the Star Wars of
They played
like,
into the nostalgia aspect really well.
Like
as well.
I'm not gonna lie, like going into this, I've never been a huge kind of like a space Star Wars battle type of person. I've never really enjoyed those kind of movies, but 2 out of the 3 of my top MCU movies all have to do with outer space, and
I was thinking that, dude.
I give it a huge thanks of it.
Thor Ragnarok and Guardians of the Galaxy are all about space, man.
Huge thanks to Guardians. Guardians of the Galaxy, honestly, was the reason I actually went and started watching Star Wars. I didn't grow up starting watching. I didn't grow up watching Star Wars. I started watching Star Wars in high school.
Okay.
So I remember watching it and I was like, I want to see more things like this. And I remember one day I went to a garage sale and someone was selling like a Darth Vader gold VHS box. I think you have one of those, Dan. And I was like, all right,
Dude,
let's see what these movies are all about. And I watched them all in one weekend. And
on VHS?
Yes, yeah, on VHS.
Dude.
So
man.
So honestly, Guardians of the Galaxy made me a fan of Star Wars, made me a fan of David Bowie. It made me a fan of I don't know, just these really risky kind of obscure kind of characters. It was great. It was awesome.
I would point out the interesting aspect of this. There is not a single Avengers movie in your list here of your top 3 and honorable mentions. Not a single Avengers proper movie.
No, I've never rewatched one. I
haven't rewatched a single one of the Avengers movies.
No,
not even Infinity War or Endgame.
Never. I watched Infinity War once, but that's because I was showing the MCU to Ariella, my girlfriend, and we got to Infinity War because Endgame was going to come out. Only reason I ever rewatched it. There's something I don't like about those movies, and I think it's just because they're such a big blockbuster moment to moment movie. Right. I love watching the characters, and like Bobby said it, like just watching the characters grow. Guardians Volume 1 to Volume 2, you see Chris Pratt's characters, start to grow. You see that relationship between him and Yondu, which is like really build. You don't get to see those moments in Endgame. You get to see kind of like the result and where they are at.
If you throw Civil War in there,
as
a Avengers movie, which I would consider that more of an Avengers movie.
But I think that's what I love. I love seeing like everything building and growing, and I love the Avengers movies as being like kind of the results and being like, oh, they're best friends now, but you should have seen a movie or 2 ago. They were frenemies and they were getting through some rough patches or some things like that. But I can look back at Guardians and see like the root of Chris Pratt's character, the root of Yondu just being like a huge butthole to him, but kind of loving him as a son, and then really seeing that grow in the second movie. It makes you appreciate it that much more.
Yondu's death was almost as emotional as Tony Stark's, and it took 18 less movies.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Should we go? Who's next? Bobby?
I am. Yep.
Bobby.
I rearranged my list a couple times so we can go the Magna route too.
Your list a couple times. I'm thinking we might have to do a part 2 that's all about our least favorite Because
I think we got enough time.
We got enough time. I think we can.
We'll have some crossover.
Y'all
I think we'll have enough time.
That is
Yeah.
true. We might have some crossovers.
Y'all are
Yeah,
very
we'll have enough
optimistic.
I'll be. I can
I'm
be
happy.
kinda
I mean,
quick.
this is Marvel. I'm happy to take however long and however much time we need to break this down, because this conversation's been a long time coming. So
yeah, take your time, Bobby. We'll see how long it takes.
We'll see how it takes.
So I'm guessing left to right.
Yeah.
Honorable mentions farthest to the left.
Yep. I mean,
Favorite
well, again, same thing,
number
just
one,
like
farthest to the
everyone
right?
else. Yeah,
No.
just like everyone else. So we'll just pop it up.
So your honorable mention is on the right.
Yes. So Avengers: Infinity War is my honorable mention.
Okay, and then it goes
Correct.
to the left. Okay.
Yeah.
Infinity War is your honorable mention.
One.
Yes.
Oh, God,
I told it.
can't
That was
wait.
my
Wait for
content.
I am so happy you put that in. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, so I'm gonna. I'll be. So I chose Avengers: Infinity War. I think because that was the Empire Strikes Back of the whole franchise.
Definitely agree with that statement.
So that's why I firmly chose Avengers: Infinity War. I would have put maybe the first Avengers movie because it was the first time it cumulated all those movies together, but I chose Avengers: Infinity War because I felt it did a better job than the first Avengers movie, than all the other Avenger movies, and it was the Empire Strikes Back of the movies. So that's why it's my honorable mention.
That means gets lost, Squidward. Yeah. My favorite line of the whole movie. I love that.
And it just did a really good job of meshing all the characters together, and it flowed really nice. The effects flowed, the emotions, everything that was building up from Civil War. It
had to accomplish a lot,
and it did time
and having it be meaningful. There was a lot going on.
And it did really well. So and it made Thanos again this character who could have been a one-off cheesy character, and they made him really dynamic.
All righty.
So
number three,
Guardians of the Galaxy. We already said that it was a groundbreaking moment. It broke the mold. It took obscure characters, and it was truly the Star Wars of the franchise. So was very happy with that. Thor Ragnarok.
Ragnarok is 2.
So it's 2, and I chose it. So Dan, I believe we started watching Marvel movies after this movie. We've seen a couple movies together.
This is, I think, the first one that we saw together in theater.
We saw together, and this is
the first movie I ever saw in a
Dolby
Atmos theater.
Me too.
Ruined me for seeing movies in the theater after that.
Yes.
So have to see a movie in Dolby Atmos if it is a big movie like these are.
If not IMAX, it has to be Dolby. And we saw Thor Ragnarok in this, and every just that whole emotion, the soundtrack. I think it did a really good. I mean, I think it took a lot of elements really well, and they blended it well. It was fun. It was that 1970s comic book feel type movie. It was that buddy movie. They did a lot of things, and it did it really well.
All right, and your number one.
My number one pick, Captain America: The First Avenger.
Yes.
And I will tell you why. You talked about okay, and I know you don't like it because it can't be. All right, here's the thing. You talk about rewatch. Yeah, sorry, Alberto.
I'll let you talk. All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
So you talk about rewatchability. I saw this the day it came out. I saw it the day after it came out at a 7 a.m. showing, just so I had the whole movie theater to myself. I saw it again. I personally can rewatch this movie in my head 1,000 times and still love it, because I always wanted to see a very good version of Captain America, and this was this superhero. I was always the Boy Scout superhero who you want, and this is the superhero I wanted to be. It was the perfect combination of campiness, of movie making. It was the director who made The Rocketeer. It was that World War II feeling. It's
also the same director that ruined Jurassic Park until The Lost World came out.
Well,
Joe Johnson is the one responsible for Jurassic Park 3. So,
well, again, I never saw Jurassic
Park. But you can
3.
definitely this feels very much like his kind of a movie, and it fits that better. His style.
The style was probably better than
way more than Jurassic Park.
I'll have to go with your word for Jurassic Park 3.
The fact that we didn't get a Howling Commandos TV series, one of the biggest travesties. The group of actors that they cast for those Howling
guys,
casted,
yeah.
Neil McDonough. You've got I'm drawing a blank on their other names right now. Like that whole group that they casted for those guys, fantastic actors. And they would have killed it in an ensemble TV show.
You could you got Disney Plus. You can do so much stuff too. I mean, right now, but again, that's why Captain America is my number one. Dan, I know you think it's the campiness, it's the Batman and Robin, Adam West of the whole series for you. I get it, but that's my number one, and I'm sticking with it. And
that's my number one. You can't.
And Alberto's got my back. Christian's kind of like. Christian's got my back, so
I got Bobby's back because of this, Dan. Like when the first Captain America came out, prior to it, what was out? It was Iron Man 2, which we'll talk about later on. I think
we'll talk about
Iron Man 2. Yeah. There was the Incredible Hulk, which we'll definitely be talking about what that one was like, and it was the first Thor, which we've already talked about. So to me, I didn't like MCU movies at all. Like there was the first Iron Man, and it was like a pretty cool like movie, and I was like, oh yeah, that was fun. And then there was like 3 bummer movies for me.
It like went down.
Yeah, and then like First Avenger came out, and I'm a huge like lover for jazz. Did some jazz ensembles at school, so that whole like World War like era stuff with the music like that, the old outfits like that, the costume designs, the entire production design. I fell in love with all that stuff, and it was super campy. It really, honest to God, was. But there was something about that. I was like, okay, this was the most fun I've had watching any of the MCU movies since the first Iron Man. And now
the campiness fit the movie. That was that's the beauty part about it. It's supposed to be campy because after that, Captain America takes a really dark turn, and he has to stick it to his guns to stick to his beliefs.
Okay, we're kind of jumping the gun on the. I'll save my comments. The campiness.
Favorite comment.
The campiness didn't. I'll just put it this way: the campiness didn't work for me, and it almost ruined the entirety of that film for me. But
this guy,
we'll get there.
Yeah, we've all learned Dan has no
be a good conversation.
Listen,
stay
Dan,
tuned, everyone.
I saw what you posted in the group the other day. You like that Transformer design of Stephen Wolf a lot more, or
Steppenwolf?
Steppenwolf.
You mean the one that freaks little children out, and the dude looks like he's about ready to shred your entire face off just by rubbing against you? Yeah, dude.
I'm talking about the car that Bumblebee has to now fight in the next Michael Bay film.
Shut it, man.
Literally,
that's new Steppenwolf. Is so much more badass than the other dude who looked like some guy's uncle that gets
I didn't like the original
Christmas card and then shows up at the family reunion anyway.
The original design was like a really weird cosplay of Rogue from Guardians of the Galaxy. All of a sudden,
the original Steppenwolf in the theatrical version in the Justice League. Dude, seriously, bad. That's like PlayStation 2 graphics meets bad cosplay is all that was. So
look, this is your Steppenwolf.
Way more badass.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the Steppenwolf you love, apparently.
Yeah,
that doesn't look like Steppenwolf at all. I don't know what you guys are talking about. That's ridiculous.
All right, Dan,
okay,
let's see.
Moving on to the true.
Dan.
Let's see your cards now.
Movies in the MCU.
We all just got to start booing loudly.
Mine are. Of course, because I do apparently look at everything differently than you. Left to right, counting down with my honorable mention all the way to number 1.
Well, you're inverted, so.
Yeah. The normal way to do things, left to right, top to bottom, imagine that. Infinity War is my honorable mention. Avengers Infinity War. And can I just point out, and Bobby will attest to this, the fact that it is even up here.
Yeah, you were not happy at the end of the movie. He was not happy.
I hated this movie.
I vividly remember
absolutely
the rant you went on
loathe.
Facebook.
You were upset about this one.
You were, yeah.
This one offended you. I honestly think
This one was
offended
mad. He was mad because he was expecting to be the end of the franchise and move on to the next phase, and that's not what we got.
We didn't get an Infinity War Part 1 and 2. Oh, yeah, we did. Y'all lied to us, right? Still kind of cheesed about
They
that.
subverted your expectations, Dan. That's what you
thought you
love.
liked
Hurt
that.
anything. They just flat out lied to me.
I thought you liked when things didn't go the way you thought they were going to go.
No, but here's the thing. Okay, so here's the thing. This movie did go the way that I thought it was going to go. It just took forever to get there. And I was having a hard time enjoying the ride to get there and end on that note. And then the payoff I was hoping was going to be better than Endgame.
Thanos will return.
Right. Like the whole like middle finger at the end of Thanos will return. So here's the deal though. As agitated as I was then, I effing love this movie now. Like what these guys did, putting all these characters together and tying all of these threads that we've been following for a decade to create an experience where they're all showing up. And some of the characters that are really impactful and have powerful moments in this movie were not originally even a figment of their imagination, including them in the MCU when they went down this trail originally, like Spider-Man, right? The moment when Spider-Man is like in like Tony Stark's arms and like the weight of that moment and everything, right? Spider-Man was not part of the MCU and wasn't even remotely considered to be a possibility when they went down the trail of heading towards this story arc. And they made it work. And I was really impressed by that. And Thanos, for all of the highs and lows of all the bad guys that we've seen, I loved how they made him a sympathetic character. You know, like as awful as he is, you kind of get where he's coming from. And that's to some degree, I think going to be a theme in a lot of these movies is the deeper context of what's going on in a lot of these movies. So that was my honorable mention. And I thought for sure I'd never put that in the top movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe ever, but there it is. Number 3 is Black Panther. And for a lot of what I think we already discussed, I think it's an extremely powerful conversation that is taking place throughout the whole of this movie. And it's a very eye-opening and empowering movie. It shows really great portrayal of what's that? It was not me. Great portrayal of feminism, modern day feminism, without being like super preachy about it. Like these women are just badass and that's just who they are. And yet they're still feminine. Like they're not sacrificing any aspect of their femininity in order to be taken seriously by the men around them. Love that. Also just love the fact that Killmonger is also such a sympathetic character. Goes about it the wrong way. But I also love how the Black Panther himself, like he's willing to take on the sins of his own fathers in order to try and change things and move forward.
I wish we'd gotten more Andy Serkis.
What was that?
I wish we'd gotten more Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I think
he could have.
He was kind of just more like a MacGuffin of the whole tying in the other movies
around a little longer. Like they could have easily
been around longer. You're right.
Like it could have easily been a like little subplot with like Bilbo Baggins. I forget his character's. I forget his actual name.
Yeah.
With him like interrogating him or something like that.
Yeah,
you know, there could have
been here's the thing though. Like that, his character. This movie is not about him at all.
No, it's not. But I just like I love it.
And his character is only there to serve the plot moving forward on what Killmonger is willing to do that Black Panther isn't.
Yeah, I mean, probably wouldn't have
what I
fit
mean?
the movie or made it any better, but personal preference.
Yeah. I mean, he's kick-ass actor for sure. So give me more Andy Serkis. I don't mind. Number 2, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This is definitely the best Captain America movie. Sorry, Bobby. The growth of his character and the conflict that takes place with regard to the loyalty that he has in trusting the government and trusting people with power. All of that builds a really strong foundation for the conflict that happens in Civil War, which I love, and builds off of the redemptive component of, they're still good in people and I still believe in people. Like, he's still Captain America for sure, but he's having to discover who he has to be as that guy in a world that's radically different than the one that he left.
I know it's a good movie. It's a solid movie.
Absolutely love it.
I'm not going to disagree with you on your.
And my number 1, which is one that most people usually disagree with, is Doctor Strange.
I liked it.
I would disagree. Yeah, I'm more surprised by it.
Yeah, I would agree. Surprise, not disagreement, just surprise.
The reason why I picked this one is, I think, going back to a lot of what you guys were talking about as far as replay value. This film has substantially more in it that connects with everything else going on in the MCU than anyone ever thought possible when it originally came out. After Infinity War, after Ant-Man and Wasp, after Endgame, I go back and watch this movie and I'm like, holy crap. They had all of this laid out years ago. And they were giving us breadcrumbs all the way through in Doctor Strange. And it was just such a massive, just weird, trippy movie. And to have his character go from such a stuck-up douchebag to sacrificing literally yourself for the entirety of the universe, and then becoming the person that he is in Infinity War. I just love his character so much. And I wish we saw more of him moving forward. I know he's got his new movie coming out. I can't wait for that. It's going to be fantastic. I love his character. He's one of my favorite characters in the whole MCU now. And I go back and watch this movie so many times and catch so much more connected to all of the other movies in the franchise that I didn't even know was happening before. So I love movies.
Might be taking on that Iron Man role going forward.
Yeah. I think
he's going to be connected to the WandaVision show. He's going to be in the Spider-Man movie. He's got his own movie coming out. Yep. It feels like he might kind of be that centerpiece of
going into a multiverse type realm.
It makes
he's the perfect guy for that central leadership role for sure. So
let me ask you a question about this movie real quick. Sorry about it. I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
No. Go for it.
I do like this movie a lot. I feel like the first half to 2/3 of it is so slow. It's a lot of.
No, I don't know that the first half or 2/3 of it.
It's a lot. It's very slow. It's very talky. It's very expository. It's a lot of setting up the rules of how the magic. Which I understand you got to do that. I understand, but it's just very slow. It's very. It's. The second half.
So what I'm hearing is you don't have enough patience for it as well.
No, it's not that.
That was just a little jab. That's all that was.
That's all it is. I love the second half of this movie. Second half of the movie is fantastic.
Well, the second half has all the action in it, dude. But here's the deal. The first half of the movie is him as a character being confronted with the fact that you're a douchebag. And now with all of the arrogance that came along with being the best in the world, you can't help yourself.
Yeah.
There's a part of that I love that internal struggle and the dynamic. There's spiritual components to this that are hey, there's a bigger world out here beyond you just doing stuff that you find interesting.
Hey, didn't we see that movie already in the Marvel universe?
What are you talking about, Bobby?
Didn't we see that? Wasn't that the first Marvel movie? about Hulk
Iron Man?
about an asshole redeeming himself who made weapons, and then
Yeah, but that was a guy who was making weapons just to make a ton of money and be a playboy. I get what you're saying.
yeah, it's Iron Man. I mean, I love this movie.
There are
too.
aspects of that story arc that exist in nearly every solo origin movie ever.
Definitely.
You know what? One of my
dude starts out as a jerk, and like Batman Begins, right?
Yeah.
Dude's an arrogant jerk and wants, and then finally leaves and tries, gets his shit together and then comes back and saves people, which is the opposite of who he started at the beginning. Like that story arc component isn't new to just Iron Man.
No, and it's in a lot of forms of media in general, not even just comic book movies.
But I love the helplessness component of this. And to be honest, there's a part of me that, like, with my setup here at the house, I've got like a 3D projector thingy. I'm not huge into 3D. I have a bunch of 3D movies, but I'm not like everything has to be 3D. But this movie is effing trippy and insane to watch in 3D. Like, you see it in the theater, it was like take a Xanax or something. Like it was like a Dramamine, excuse me, not a Xanax. Take a Dramamine. Like it was crazy. The visual effects were just blow your mind, and I don't know. I love it. I could watch it more and more and more and get more out of it still. So
for me, I feel like my one lingering problem with this film is not even about this film. It's about the fact that we've gone so long since this film without a sequel to it.
Mm-hmm.
And what has Baron Mordo been doing this entire time? He was supposedly hunting down all these sorcerers, yet there's a million of them in Endgame. You haven't been doing a very good job.
No.
Like, what has he been doing?
Maybe dude got wiped out. Maybe he got
I don't know.
And then he came back. They don't know though. We haven't explained it.
So
we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
We've got a half hour. I think
we got 30 minutes.
So I made a summary sheet of our worst. If we just kind of wanted to review them all together, I kind of went ahead. If we wanted to.
At the very least, go through them individually, and if we don't get through all four of us, then we can save a couple of them for next week.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, whatever you guys want to do, I was just kind of.
All right,
we still get the time to individually talk about them.
Your worst.
Yep. It's the same way as my best. So far right is the honorable mention, all the way through to my worst movie.
And that's I agree with some of these and not with some of them. Imagine that. Okay, so your honorable mention of the worst.
Honorable mention is Incredible Hulk. And
what didn't you like about this movie? A lot of people have this in their worst, but
here's why I didn't put it in my actual worst, and that's because I'm not going to hold this against the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because it has since been grandfathered in as canon. But it was not. I don't
know that it was grandfathered in, dude. It had Tony freaking Stark in at the end. It's the thing that started the whole deal. It's never been grandfathered in.
But Kevin Feige had no input on anything in the movie. It was not made under the overarching vision of the greater MCU. It was made as a standalone Hulk film, and they decided, let's throw Tony Stark in there to hint that we're going to be bringing Hulk over to the Avengers.
They had plans to do the Avengers. They had plans to do the Avengers.
So that's the only reason I didn't put it in there is because I don't feel like this was truly an MCU movie. That's my opinion. But
dude, okay. It's the second movie of the entirety of the MCU. And in the end credits, it's got Tony Stark showing up saying, we're putting a team together.
Yes,
what does that not say if not from the very beginning, this is all about the Avengers?
You're not going to change my mind on this.
Okay. All right.
So, again, Kevin Feige, when did this Hulk movie come out?
2009, 2008.
The first official film to come out under the Disney licensing, whatever, was Thor, and that was still in the floundering between who exactly's movie is this, and they're trying to get their feet wet and put everything together.
And Kevin Feige wasn't truly in charge until probably after Avengers 1, Captain America. That's when he started really getting his hands wet. And there was a
first Avengers movie was probably his real big one, maybe Captain America first.
Yeah, there was a power struggle happening between.
Oh, you know what it was?
Disney, and I'm trying to find it. There was a power struggle, and then when Kevin Feige finally won, that's when we started getting the Marvel Cinematic. It was more of a cohesive vision. So I can see definitely where Christian is coming from. Why Hulk didn't really fit in. It was just kind of like, oh, let's squeeze this in. It sounds good. We'll just figure it out later. Because if you watch Iron Man 1, there was a lot of sprinkling of a lot of where he had Captain America's shield in there. So, and they completely threw that Easter egg out or never paid tribute to that. So there was definitely course corrections.
Because Iron Man very easily could have been a flop and nothing else would have ever happened.
Right.
So, but anyway,
I think it would have maybe led up to the Avengers, and
that probably would have been it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But so for me, Incredible Hulk is just kind of, I don't know, it was underwhelming for me. I wasn't a fan of any of really the acting portrayals. I think Edward Norton severely underacted for how good of an actor he is. I feel like I don't know if he felt like it was below him or something. I'm not sure, but. Number 3, Captain Marvel, which I know you have strong feelings about this one as well, Dan.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it at all either.
I feel like it was a fine film. It to me, if it was going to exist, it should have existed 5 years before it did.
At least, yeah.
Like for that to be the movie that came out where it did. Like you were talking earlier about how Thor Ragnarok felt out of place in its release schedule. This movie felt so out of place because there was
they were trying to get it a 90s movie and make it a 90s movie, and there were some aspects of it that definitely felt like that, like the soundtrack.
Yeah,
but that was about it.
Well, right. I think also you had Wonder Woman. Who was they had this awesome feminism movie, Wonder Woman, come out. You had great traction with Black Panther.
Yeah.
And then Captain Marvel, I think there was a lot of undertones where, there's probably people can then talk about this better than me. I'm a white male talking about feminism, so
we all are technically. And are you the right person to be talking about this? But whatever.
I think we got. Get some other perspectives on this movie, but I think they could have done her arc better. I mean, and she's supposed to be a no guff, take no hards, like I'm not going to take, and I'm sorry, take no shit type person, Solo. And that's her shit.
The casting choice didn't help them. I don't think Brie Larson was the right choice for that role.
She had a lot of, but here's the deal. I think that was part of like the baggage that she has that comes with her. I think they thought that fit the credibility of what they wanted her to portray.
Yeah.
In this kind of feminist-centric 90s focused superhero
and she
movie.
Didn't help it. And she didn't help herself with just some of the absurd things.
Her social media stuff was definitely,
and some of the absurd things she was saying in press conferences. Oh yeah, Captain Marvel could definitely lift Thor's hammer. Oh, she's the strongest Avenger. Like just making all these wild claims before her movie had even come out. Just. Like,
right, and here's the side of it that I think
they didn't make her movie. I'm sorry,
it's a very when I think of the portrayal of feminist superhero character, like iconic characters, the 3 movies that I think come to the top of the list as far as trying to portray strong feminist female leads are Wonder Woman. Obviously, Bobby mentioned that already. Black Panther, we talked about that already. and Captain Marvel. I think Captain Marvel, if viewed as a period movie, like a period piece, 90s, right? That's the only way that I can take this film in and take it even remotely seriously as a feminist focused, like female empowering kind of movie, because, and I'm saying that as some mid 30s white guy, I get how absurd that sounds, but compared to Wonder Woman, and take this with a grain of salt because I'm the DC guy in the group, but as someone who's got a 4-year-old daughter, I love the fact that Wonder Woman had a portrayal of feminism during World War One. It was a period piece, but the approach to feminism in that movie was to say, you don't have to make yourself look like, act like, and be like one of the boys to be taken seriously or feel like you have something of value to contribute to the world around you.
Right.
You can be 100% a woman, 100% feminine, and not have to feel like that in and of itself isn't enough to be taken seriously as a leader, to be taken seriously as someone who's able to contribute something good to the world because you have something good that the world needs, right? Whereas Captain Marvel, I feel like it was as if her femininity was constantly being something that had to be overcome. Her own femininity was an obstacle that she had to prove she could be one of the boys in order to be taken seriously around all the guys that are around her. Now, don't get me wrong, that is a genuine thing too.
Right.
The real conflict. That is a representation of what the feminist struggle was, very much so in the 80s and 90s, though. So for a 90s movie, I think that fits. I think it fits. But going into this movie, having Wonder Woman and that context on my mind, having a little girl of my own, wanting her to love superheroes and have a female superhero icon to look up to, coming out of this movie, I was like, yes, the struggle that she's dealing with might be real to some degree for a lot of the older people in the audience who went through the 70s, 80s, 90s, etc. But a modern portrayal of feminism, part of me is like, I really wish they would have done a better job hitting that same note that Wonder Woman did for the younger girls out there that are like, no, you don't have to be one of the boys to be taken seriously.
And I think for me, honestly, it was a lot simpler than that, honestly. Like, I appreciate that aspect of it, but for me, it was just simply, I didn't think it was a good movie.
That could be too. I also really hated what they did with the Skrulls in this film.
Yeah, everybody was expecting the twist we got in Far From Home with Nick Fury in this movie,
right?
And everybody saw the twist we did get with Jude Law's character coming 10 miles away.
Right. Oh, totally saw that. Yep.
I also want to I wanted to mention too, one of the issues
for a while. I apologize.
No, with Captain Marvel, she filmed her end sequence at the end of Avengers Infinity War first before making Captain Marvel.
Really?
And,
so
she filmed it in front of a green screen. There was nobody
and she
else
filmed
there.
in green screen. So she had no idea. They didn't know the character.
She did her entire
yeah.
outfit and everything in Endgame for sure. So.
And they just said, this is it. You know, this is what you're doing. And I think they also did Infinity War first. The whole, even Endgame.
She filmed every single scene in Endgame. She filmed before she even filmed Captain Marvel.
So she didn't even have her character. So she had her Endgame, and I think the person who she was in Endgame is who she's very much in the comics.
Right,
and
they definitely hit that better in the comic. Yeah. Like in Endgame, it was definitely
in Endgame, and then she took that character, that Endgame, and then brought it to this movie. And they don't really show how she gets from there to here. And I think that was a little bit more of the disconnect of that Captain Marvel too. And I personally did like the Skrulls twist, where I disagree with Dan. And I remember I saw this movie.
I was as mad about this as I was Iron Man 2 or 3, excuse me, with the Mandalorian and all of that. I was like, I love that
Mandarin,
twist too. Excuse me. I couldn't stand it. I was like, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me.
Don't diss the Mandalorian.
No, to try
Don't
to
diss
Do
the
that to
Mandalorian.
me. Don't
try
take Batman's arch villain, the Joker, and then turn him into a literal joke for everybody. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me.
to try to save some time here, so we went on a little bit of a tangent there.
That's all right.
My number 2, Alberto touched on earlier, and Alberto, feel free to chime in here on this one. Thor: The Dark World.
True.
This movie, I went back and forth between this and my number 1, which we'll get to in a second. I went back and forth. Ultimately, the only thing, in my opinion, that saved this movie was the last
Natalie Portman.
30 minutes of it. The last 30 minutes of this movie.
Right, Alberto, Natalie Portman.
Saves it.
You're feeling me on that one, right? Natalie Portman.
No. Again, I don't have a problem with her. It's just her character, her specific character. With Jane, I think that was the name.
Yeah.
The last 30 minutes are just crazy action and just like trippy portals flying all over the place and everything.
And that's the only thing that saves this movie, because it makes it somewhat entertaining. If it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for those 30 minutes of that film, this film would be utterly forgettable.
Again, going back to the 3D thing, watching the last 20 minutes of this movie in 3D is like, that's a trip.
I remember 2 things from this movie.
It's a visual spectacle.
And that's the end. That end thing with like the giant spire thing, like crashing into like the earth. And I remember her throwing her cell phone through a portal. That's the only 2 things I remember from this movie. That's it.
Okay, well, she lost the cell phone. It dropped through and then magically showed up like later on in the movie. That's what happened.
She throws something through one of those portals. The shoe, maybe? I don't know. She throws something through there.
She dropped her shoe, it disappeared, dropped her keys, and then magically the keys ended up being where they needed to be when she needed them to be there. Yeah. Makes me wonder if a certain doctor may have technically been involved in pulling the strings back then. Who knows?
Anyways.
Number one, though, your least favorite of
Iron Man 2.
Iron Man 2.
I'm gonna kind of disagree with you on that one. Kind of. I can see where you're going with this, but I'm gonna fight. I can fight with this a little bit.
This is another one that's gonna kind of link to my same argument I had about the Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton. Mickey Rourke, coming off of one of the greatest performances of his career.
You talking about the wrestler?
Yes.
Gives the worst performance of his career.
No, dude, have you seen him in The Expendables?
Yes.
That is the worst performance of his career.
I would rather watch Mickey Rourke in The Expendables every day of the week than watch him in this movie. It is the only good thing that this movie does.
His parrot? His bird?
The only good thing this movie does is introduce Black Widow and switch to Don Cheadle for War Machine. That's it. That's the only thing this movie does well.
Bobby, tee it up, dude. I'll let you.
The problem, I think the ultimate problem with this movie was they used this movie to jumpstart the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They crammed so much into this movie, and they tried to give Tony even a redeeming arc too at the same time, because they tried to cram in the Demon in a Bottle story arc into this. You know, they didn't use alcohol, but they used addiction.
Has Easter eggs of Hank Pym and the Pym Particle. It's got stuff about Project what is it? The Project Gigantus or whatever that was in Ant-Man and Wasp, like the big.
Right. And they had that. Right? They had the shield. Like here, he's fixing.
So many Easter eggs in this movie.
And they didn't, there's a lot that didn't pay off. They had a lot of things writing in this movie that crammed it all in. And I think that's part of the movies that it suffered. But I think this movie is at the end, if you just kind of have fun with it and just remember that little Peter Parker they said, oh yeah, that's Peter Parker, the kid that he saves at the fair. Then you just have fun with the movie.
I don't know that that's a thing though.
It is. Well, no, canon.
Yeah,
they officially said
the small child in the Iron Man mask was Peter Parker.
They made that canon.
Really? Yeah.
Now I gotta go watch this movie again.
Yeah.
You did it again, Marvel. All right, who's next? Bobby.
Alberto was second last.
You can go. Yeah,
Alberto was next, right?
Believe it or not, I have the same entries as Christian, just slightly different. Maybe if anything, I mean. I think I did.
Not quite. Not quite.
It was Hulk, Captain Marvel. I'm trying to remember which ones I
You don't
picked.
even remember your own movies, dude.
No, it was
They're
Hulk,
that
Captain
forgettable.
They're all
Marvel.
pretty close, though. You're right. They're pretty close. The Iron Man is the one that's off a little bit. Hulk
Oh,
was
wait.
honorable mention, right?
Uh-huh.
Captain Marvel was your number 3. You have Iron Man 1 in there instead of 2. Did
No,
you
it's Iron
mean
Man 2.
That was
That's Iron
too.
Man 2.
Or is
Yeah,
that Iron Man 2?
It's Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
It's got War Machine and Black
That
Widow
is
right there
Iron
on the
Man
thing.
And then Thor: The Dark World. So you just reversed Iron Man and Thor.
Yes, because Natalie Portman. I'm just kidding. Yeah, well, because because I definitely did. As wacky as Mickey Rourke was in Iron Man 2, I still at least enjoyed watching him just. I don't know. Watching him just be Whiplash and just be some really goofy character again. I don't know what is it with these Marvel movies, like final climactic fighting sequences. That last fight in the park or whatever with Iron Man, and all of a sudden you liked it. I thought it was cool, but then again, what is it with them and like
There's
doing
some
this?
comedic moments there too, with like Hammer and Hammer Industries, and like that whole like.
But why does every
conflict is so
fight have to be?
I'm going to do the
as-
Widowmaker.
ex-wife. I call it the ex-wife.
Why does every single fight have to
Get a
be
bunker
at night?
under your bunker that's under the bunker that's above it. Reduce everything to 0. I
I'm
call
just
it the
wondering,
ex-wife.
like, why does every fight have to be at nighttime where you could barely see everything again? And I'm just
It's
thinking,
easier to make effects.
And it's
Like, that's
easier to disguise the bad choreography.
gosh dang it, guys. But
True.
if there's ever like a definition of what like if you had to try to pick like an MCU movie that really felt like a setup, Iron Man 2 just felt like a huge setup.
Yes, I
Avengers.
agree.
And
I
it
agree.
was-
Oh,
so-
yeah,
Of
setup.
course it is.
Yes, yes,
And-
it was the setup movie.
And
The dude
also-
discovers a new element
yeah. And then
that
I
was
guess
somehow magically put out into the way that the entirety of his father's like Disney World show basically was structured. Like, it's a pretty far-fetched. It's a reach for sure.
Yeah.
It's a big stretch.
because like I think, and maybe you guys can agree or disagree with this, but I think as far as MCU catalog goes, they've never really made, at least in my opinion, a terrible movie. There's been movies that I don't like, but at the grand scheme of it, like I don't think any of them are bad. I mean, like we've talked about like Elektra and Catwoman, and I think like those.
Oh,
are-
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no,
I
no,
think
that level
Alberto,
of bad.
I think I agree with you. Yeah,
So,
I agree with you.
Batman
So-
and Robin level bad. No.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
So
No,
basically, like,
Dan, don't get me started on Batman and Robin.
So
Yeah.
basically, like these movies, while I don't think any of them are really bad, these are all ones, with the exception of the Hulk one. The Hulk one I just randomly rented because I was like, oh, I didn't know that even came out. Then I saw it and I was like, that was kind of forgettable. But all the other ones were ones that I was really looking forward to. I mean, like, I wanted to know more about Captain Marvel. I never read Captain Marvel. A few years ago, I started reading Miss Marvel comics, and she looks up to Captain Marvel so much, and that's her idol and everything, and who she really even bases her entire costume off of. So I wanted to learn more about Captain Marvel, and this movie just felt like a huge waste of potential. If there was a movie that made you feel like you were watching cardboard, it would be that one. I just felt like I was watching that for 2 hours.
Which one, Captain Marvel?
Captain Marvel, yeah. Like the whole movie just felt just so bland to me. There was
Predictable.
there was nothing wrong with it though. At the
Very
same time,
predictable.
like
Except for the whole like how Nick Fury loses his eye. I was hoping the payoff on that would be a substantially
That
bigger
was
deal.
a bad payoff.
That was
They diverted-
awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
Another
bad. That was a
expectation.
bad.
Awful.
Yeah,
You could have done
Yeah,
so much more with that. Really?
that was the only part I did not like about the movie.
But
how-
Dan, it subverted your expectations.
Shut up. No. There's good ways to do it and bad ways to do it.
But
A galactic alien cat scratching you in the face.
The
when
last
you're
time I
big-
trusted someone, I lost an eye.
is the last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye. Ooh, I want to know that story.
I
Freaking
thought
cat?
that was-
Are you kidding me? Come on.
I think that yeah, just like looking back, I was still excited because I loved Brie Larson in The Room. I loved her in Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I thought she did really good.
Yeah.
Um,
Kong Skull Island. She was in that and did amazing.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
her.
She did great in that, and I guess Dan already hit every single he hit the head on every nail that I would wanted to say. I don't have a daughter myself, but there is a real big comparison I think that can be made between Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman. I'm not going to repeat anything, but yeah, I definitely think that Wonder Woman already did what Captain Marvel was trying to do, and they did it a few years ago much more better. I'm hoping in the future. I don't think that Brie Larson is a bad actress. I think she is super good at acting.
No, I don't think so either.
I just think the writing was just kind of just mediocre, and maybe that testament and that conversation can go on for like an hour, but I'm excited to see how like the writing for like the female characters going forward, because phase 1 MCU was all about bros being bros, really. I mean phase 1, like there was Black Widow, she was also the only one that didn't even get a solo movie, but everyone else got a solo movie. Everyone else got their time to shine, and
Hawkeye didn't get a song.
Well, Hawkeye too.
He's getting a show. He's getting a show.
He's getting a show, and Black Widow's movie is finally coming out in 2021. I'm just like, holy snikes, dude, that's taking forever. But anyway, though, so I'm just excited to look forward to see how they're going to be handling Captain Marvel going forward after all the criticism that everyone's really been outspoken about.
Captain Marvel came out last year.
Yeah, that's true.
And the fact that feels like 5 years ago is a testament to this year, but also a testament to the fact that this movie feels so outdated already.
Like, I know you guys don't watch anime. I don't know if you watch anime, Christian, but
no, I do not.
But there's this
Naruto.
Anime. Yes, I was gonna say there's a really popular anime named Naruto or Naruto, and the original run is about 200 episodes long. Mm-hmm. And after you reach episode 100, they do filler for about 60 episodes. and I kid you not, this isn't an exaggeration. You can go on animefilterlist.com and there's an exact
banging
list.
My head against the wall right there.
There's a whole list of episodes that the website recommends. You can fully skip this. It's fine.
You are all of this. Yeah.
And it's roughly 40, 60 episodes you can skip.
Is it going into... Are you cutting into Shippuden or just the regular Naruto series?
The original ones. So
the original ones.
Yes. So right before it goes into Shippuden and all that stuff. So like it just completely fillers it out. In the manga, they jump straight from episode or what would have been episode like 100 to like episode 150 pretty quick. But in the anime world, they just padded it out. I felt like if there was a movie that felt like a Naruto filler episode, that was Captain Marvel. It was kind of there. You could skip it. It's kind of like mixed canon. You could skip it. You're not missing too much. You are missing the really sad, tragic story of Nick Fury losing his eye to.
And you're missing a little bit of more details about the Tesseract.
Yeah, exactly.
Or what happened, or how she got to where she was during this entire time. I think that's kind of the biggest fillers. Is like, unless
I had really high hopes for Captain America. I really did.
You mean Captain Marvel?
Or Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel. Like after Endgame and like that teaser and the buzzer, like the beeper or whatever, and I'm like, let's go.
Well, let's see what happens with the next phases, because maybe they will do more tie-ins, and it will give this movie more weight over the years.
My hope,
as of right now,
is that her character goes through a shift, not unlike Captain America had to.
Like with the Thor arc of this.
I was going to compare it more to Captain America. The very first Captain America movie, extremely campy, totally different than the rest of Captain America after the events that existed when he came back. He's a different guy.
More to the original Thor movie, in my opinion.
Civil War. Did you guys ever read the Civil War 2 comic?
No.
Civil War 2? No.
Yeah, Civil War 2, not 2.
So Civil War 2 essentially was Iron Man versus Captain Marvel, where there was an Inhuman who can tell the future.
Yes.
And Tony
started listing people who were gonna commit crimes or whatever, right?
Right. It is a very minority report. So Captain Marvel was using this kid to like predict the future, and she had a couple great saves, but Tony's like, this is going way too. You're toting the line right here. And
didn't she like hospitalize She-Hulk and Daredevil and like a couple other people or something like that too? I believe
died and before he came back to life, because she was because she has a romantic, and it's teased in Avengers Endgame that her and Rhodey have a thing going on, and they do have a thing going on in the comic books, but I think there's definitely growth of her character.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens.
I feel like the portrayal. So here's why I bring up Captain America specifically as a story arc comparison, because you have Steve Rogers is a certain type of portrayal of a guy in an era that he remembers and grew up in and lived around, and then he's gone from that. The world changes. He comes back and he has to adjust, be the same person, but adjust and respond to and update the hero that he has to be in this different world that he's coming back to. Her character, very much the same kind of story arc. She is a certain person, 90s, grew up in this, like all of that kind of stuff, right? She leaves, then comes back with Endgame and all of that, and now she's a part of, like, the world's different now that she's back, and she's going to have to learn how to be the person she needs to be in a world that's radically different than the one that she left. Like that's similar to the story arc that Steve Rogers had in, the phase 1. So
I think the only difference with Captain Marvel is she's more of I'm a space, like she's been hopping around in space. So she's
right.
She's there. So there's a different aspect. If you're going to bring her back into humanity, that's when you can bring back into that Captain America type arc. But if she's going to be the overarching, like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not going to show up for the entire movie because I got to deal with XYZ planet over there.
Right.
But you'll get me later on.
It's different. But I'm talking about as far as her having a role to play as an Avenger on Earth.
Yeah.
That's similar. If she's going to be a lot of person spending all of that time out in space and dealing with all these other different races and different cultures and different, like, that has an impact on you. And then you come back and the world's radically different than when it was when you left. Like, I'm hoping that her character has more growth that makes me really, really get behind her role and her character and who she is, not unlike how I was personally disappointed with Captain America, the first Avenger, because it was just way too thick with a lot of the stuff that I was like, okay, we need to move on from this, the campiness and all of that in Captain America's first Avenger. Same deal with kind of her, like, 90s-esque kind of run with the boys, kind of like, I'm going to be, I'm like, we need to move on from that. Let's use this character, but be something different.
Yeah, there is hope for a lot of growth for her, because if you've got the Miss Marvel series that they're making, that you've got
Disney Plus.
You've got Maria Rambeau coming in for the WandaVision series.
Yep,
the
Eternals is going to be coming in, which I think is that there's going to be a lot of strong female.
There's a lot of different things that are going to be happening over this next phase that are hopefully setting up for the ability for her to be more of a realistic character and have more of a connection, because she just felt very shoehorned in.
Yeah. So we're at 2 hours right now. Do we want to wrap up the last two here and knock it out?
We can leave it at 2 and then do the next 2 next week to kind of tie the episodes together and then dive into.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I can go really faster. I'm fine with either thing because it's 10 o'clock. It's time for everyone's bedtime.
Yeah.
So I got to return Baby Yoda to my son. So.
True. There he is. Grogu.
Spoilers.
Grogu. Right?
Dang,
you got one too, Kristen. Damn, I need a freaking Baby Yoda now.
I got one.
Grogu for myself, man.
You can get one at all. So Dan, I have Target and we have
Alberto,
the one from Aldi.
Do you have one now?
The only thing I got is coffee and a deodorant stick.
Dan, here's what I'm thinking. I
got my Superman comics coaster right now. That's what I
got. We've got 2 more episodes of Mandalorian. So here's what I'm thinking. We do a part 2 and a part 3 to the Marvel discussion, and then do our Mandalorian talk.
I'm cool with that.
Can we do, or maybe we can do this? I want to do a prediction for the next 2 episodes. Or
I think we'd be better off doing no predictions and just all talking as a full reaction, no on-air discussion about anything that's happened this season.
I'm all right with waiting and then having a prediction of where, like, kind of having a Star Wars conversation part 2 about where we think.
Next season and onward.
Mandalorian,
I do want to.
Obi-Wan series is going to be coming out.
Yeah, there's a lot of other stuff, and I think we'd be better off saving all that talk for the reaction episode and then doing a prediction of everything to come after that.
I think there's a possibility we see Luke Skywalker, though. I do.
Spoilers, our listeners might not have all listened. That's what I'm saying.
Or maybe
there are people that are pissed off because
Darth Maul, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
They're waiting for like the weekend to see it, and all of the cinematic, all the websites are already spoiling.
Yeah, that's why
I'm having conversations.
That's why I'm saying no talk, because some people like to binge the whole season at once too. Yeah. So no talk. We don't spoil it for anything.
My one friend started posting memes about the ending of the latest episode on Friday at like 8:30.
Characters that are showing up and like kicking ass, and you're like, what are you doing? Don't give that away.
That's even too much for some people. So don't even.
So matter of hours for people. Come on.
So then like I texted him and I said, like, you ever watch The Office where like Michael Scott's saying that like if either like Stalin, Hitler, and Toby were in a room, like I just take Toby out and I would put you in that room right now, and I just shoot you twice because now I know the ending to it.
Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy.
Yeah. And I almost was that guy too in our conversations.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. No talk. I don't want any of our fans to be spoiled by anything, so we'll wait. Whole talk until episode.
Can we all agree?
Have a Star Wars Part 2 conversation, and I will do my best to try and avoid bringing up The Last Jedi.
Yes,
please.
But also. Could we
can't make promises? But
I think we should all, for Dan's sake, I think we should at least talk about some of the things we did like about The Last Jedi, and we make Dan thinks what he didn't like about The Last Jedi.
He won't do it. He won't do it.
Me talk about the things I didn't like about the last.
I want to flip the conversation.
I'm very willing to do that.
I would rather talk about. Let's flip the conversations, because I can flip flop on The Last Jedi, and I want everyone else to talk about the things that they did like. We all did agree we did like the throne room scene where Rey and Kylo were fighting the guards. At least we can agree that was a well choreographed
sequel trilogy. That is like the top tier lightsaber component.
We all liked that. So there are things we can agree on. So I do want to see what things we can agree on with The Last Jedi.
So maybe we'll do 2 Star Wars episodes then. We'll do a full Mandalorian episode and then a Star Wars Part 2 predictions video.
Could we also do, sorry, real quick. It is the end of the year, and I know that the year was kind of weird in the entertainment world, but could we do kind of like a year in review almost?
I'm totally cool with that.
I would love to know.
Let's look at our dates real quick, because I think we might be able to actually do
like
that.
A silver lining for you guys of the year, because I just wanted an excuse to talk about Tony Hawk. So
we could do next. There you go. For the next 2 weeks,
the remaster.
Yes, sir.
Honestly, I mean, if we can fit all the Marvel in 1 week, then we could do a year in recap, and then the Mandalorian the last week of the year.
Yeah, because the 27th would be the soonest we can talk about Mandalorian, and I'm itching to talk about
Star Wars. Might deserve a 2
No. The 20th we could talk about Mandalorian, because the 18th is the last episode.
Oh,
so we could do one more Marvel, then a Mandalorian, and then on the 27th do a year in review episode.
That works.
Works for me.
Yeah,
cool. Well, don't hold us to it, everybody.
It'll probably change.
Yeah, life happens for all of us.
But
that's the plan. So make sure you stay tuned. Join the group if you're not in the group. You're watching us on YouTube. Come to Facebook. Join the group.
Hit that ding. Subscribe. Share.
I think we have like 2 viewers on YouTube. So
all that fun stuff. Yeah.
Whoever the 2 of you are, we love you guys.
Yeah.
Facebook viewers, we love you too.
We got a much stronger presence on Facebook than YouTube. For sure.
We got to build up that YouTube following.
Somebody needs to just start an OnlyFans page and do those.
Alberto, was your idea, so you're up.
There you go. That's all you, Alberto. Have fun with that.
Do it.
I don't have time for that. You kidding me? I got another podcast I'm doing and a full-time job, and I'm a dad. Good Lord.
Y'all, you guys have a great week.
You too.
Stay safe, everybody.
Stay safe, fellas.
And we will catch you next week.
Take care.
Have a good one.